Jared here with CarBuzz.com, and today I'm reviewing this 2019 Toyota Corolla. Now, when Toyota's CEO told his employees that I want to stop building boring cars, I think this might have been the exact car he had in mind. I mean, just look at this thing. Painted in blue flame as this test model is, it is a hot-looking hatchback, although it is not a hot hatch. Despite the amazing appearance that this car has, it is just a normal hatchback. It doesn't try and be as sporty as, say, a GTI or a Veloster Turbo. So it is a little bit down on power compared to those cars, but as an average commuter, dang, this thing is hot. I can't wait to go ahead and get it out on the road. But before we do, be sure to click in the link, the description below, to get all of the latest deals on the 2019 Corolla. So now let's go see how this hot-looking hatchback performs on the road. I am just so delighted to be behind the wheel of a bare bones, simple, manual hatchback. It's been a long time since I've driven a press car with a manual transmission, so this is just a very nice feeling for me. So let's talk about the Corolla as it pertains to the hatchback model and the manual transmission, because that's the thing I think a lot of people watching this video might be interested in. So we've only got one engine option. There's no other engines you can select on the Corolla Hybrid. You've got a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine with 168 horsepower and 151 foot-pounds of torque. Not like in stellar numbers, you're not going to be blown away by the power, but if I go ahead and downshift into an appropriate gear and accelerate, it picks up just fine, and it doesn't feel absolutely slow. Like, it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to merge onto the highway with adequate power. And I think the stick shift definitely helps with that, gives you a better feeling of control. The stick shift also helps with acceleration, because this car will do 0 to 60 in about 7.5 seconds. But if you opt for the CVT transmission, that'll take about 8.5 seconds. So you're going to lose an entire second for 0 to 60. So if you care about performance, the 6-speed manual is definitely the way to go. So this is an all-new 6-speed manual that Toyota created just for this car. Kind of interesting that Toyota even decided to spend the development dollars just to make a manual when hardly anybody is buying them, but I commend Toyota for doing it. I drove this car's predecessor, the Corolla IM, which was formerly the Scion IM, and that car's manual was not great. It was very long throws, and this one's not exactly a Miata by any stretch of the imagination, but it does feel a little bit better to me when I'm rolling through the gears. It is sort of a tall shifter. The clutch is pretty long. It's not as short as I'd expect. It's longer than most Honda clutches, and the action of the shifter is pretty nice. It's pretty snickety. It's definitely not a rival for like a GTI or a WRX or anything like that, but that's not what this car is trying to be. Let's talk about some of the other portions of how this car drives aside from the stick shift. I'd look at the CVT as well, because the adaptive cruise control will bring you to a stop when you opt for the CVT, and Toyota did make some major changes on this CVT transmission for this car. They added like a simulated first gear that should get rid of a lot of the rubbery feel that a lot of CVTs give you. So if you're very opposed to owning a CVT, this one might be one you want to try out. But like I said, this is not a rival for a GTI or anything like that. It's certainly, although the looks may suggest otherwise, it is not a hot hatch. The steering rack feels very slow. So if I go ahead and just kind of shuffle it back and forth, the steering is fine. It has like a nice weight to it. It's a little light, obviously, but you don't get like a ton of feedback from the wheel, nor does it like respond with a lot of nimbleness when you shift it left or right really quickly. So definitely not a sporty hot hatch in that capacity, but not too bad. The one thing that Toyota seems to be doing recently with a lot of their cars is not putting enough sound deadening in them. I noticed this when I drove the Camry and the Tacoma recently. they're just pretty loud on the highway, and this one's kind of the same. It's not that the engine is loud. When you toss it in 6th gear on the highway, it's actually pretty good. It's just that there's a lot of tire noise and wind noise, and that seems to be prevalent in a lot of Toyota models recently. So if you are doing a lot of highway driving, it may get tiresome after a while. The one car that I've driven recently that bucks this trend is the Avalon. That was very, very quiet. So since there's only one engine option, you're not going to change too much in terms of fuel economy. The base SE model, you're going to get 28 mpg in the city, 37 on the highway with the 16-inch wheels. If you go for this trim, which is the XLE, there's only 2 trim levels on the Corolla, you're going to get 32 mpg in the city and 42 on the highway, which is a great number, although you have to knock off a couple of mpg if you opt for the manual. The 6-speed manual is the least efficient of the 2 transmission options, so if you're all about best fuel economy, you're going to want to get the automatic CVT. We're going to go ahead and do a little bit of launch here, so I'm going to have it in 1st gear, traction control off. Let's see how quick this car feels. There go the front tires. Nice acceleration. You heard it squeaks the tires like just fine. Pretty quick. I like the way this car accelerates. When I drove the Yaris a couple months ago, I just was so underwhelmed by the power. You really had to go all out just to make that thing get up to highway speeds. This is certainly not the case with this car. And the fact that this is a brand new 6-speed manual, it also has this little button down here. It's labeled IMT. I believe it stands for like intelligent manual transmission, but what it basically does is it's going to add in rev matching. So that's something that you see on a lot of sports cars like the Corvette or the 370Z. I just did it there, so I'm going to go ahead and get us back up to speed and try to demonstrate how this system works. So basically, I'm going to go ahead into 1st, then I'm going to go into 2nd, and then I'm going to go into 3rd. So now I need to decelerate and put it back into 2nd. So when I do that, clutch in, it's going to rev match. So you're going to get a little bit of an increase in RPMs to try and match and give you a little bit smoother of a downshift there. Nothing too crazy. This does not feel like it does in like a 370Z or a Corvette where you really get like a throttle blip and the RPM needle shoots forward. It's really not even all that noticeable, but if you're brand new learning stick shift, it is a nice thing to have. If you're experienced and you've been driving stick shift for years, you probably won't even use it. You can rev match better than this car can. It also has the auto hold feature, which I really like on a lot of these new cars. So you go ahead and push that, and when you come to a stop, it'll hold. That's pretty helpful when you're driving a stick shift and you're going to roll back on a hill. So all I have to do is push the clutch in, and then when I start rolling forward, it's not going to roll me back at all. So as far as learning stick shift, if you're like a 16-year-old and you want to buy your first ever stick shift car, this is a fantastic option. And Toyota has also done a lot of work on this car's interior. It's a lot nicer than the last generation Corolla, so let's go ahead and pull over and take a look. As I mentioned, the 2019 Corolla is a vast improvement over its predecessor in terms of interior, but that doesn't mean it is faultless. So on this XSE trim, we have this little information display here in the gauge cluster. It'll show things. I have it showing the average MPG. You can have it showing your safety technology, whatever radio station you have, trip data, all of your settings here, and then any messages to alert you of what's wrong with the car. You have your physical RPM gauge here. The gas needle and temperature gauge are also physical needles, but on this higher trim, this is all a digital display. It looks fine, but I think it's just a lot of information being thrown at you at once. You've got your clock and your lane departure warning and your outside temperature and the IMT label and the BSM, blind spot monitoring. There's just a lot going on here, and I don't think it's particularly organized all that well. So I'd like to maybe look at the SE trim, which has the normal gauges, but the steering wheel itself is a nice leatherish material. Not the best I've felt, but not too bad either. Toyota's Entune is housed on an 8-inch touchscreen. I actually like it because it's very easy to hit. I don't have to reach too far to get any of it, but this system is starting to feel a little bit dated to me. If I click map, it's going to tell me to run Entune. That's a pain in the butt. If you have an Apple device, you will be able to run CarPlay and you'll have maps that way. But if you'll notice, like I click on stuff, it is a little bit laggy to start getting to stuff. So yeah, not my favorite system at all, but it's very easy to use, very simple to understand, just a very basic, easy touchscreen. And I like that this is standard on almost all Corolla trims. Down here, you have the dual zone automatic climate control. That's also very easy to use. And the interior itself is filled with nice materials. This dashboard is all soft touch. Up here is also soft touch material as well. So in terms of premium feel, this car definitely deserves praise. The only other major problem that I have with the Corolla interior is in terms of storage space. There's not a lot of spots to put stuff here. You've got this little storage area over here, which is good for a phone, but kind of far to reach if you want quick access to it. I guess you shouldn't be playing with your phone. And anyway, you've got your heated seat controls, which are kind of in a weird spot, like all the way up here. You have your button for the rev match downshifting and your traction control. Here's your stick shift. To get it into reverse, you just kind of pull this, toss it over here in reverse, and you'll get a backup camera engaged when you do that. Nice throw on the shifter, a little bit of a long shifter, but this is not a hot hatch after all. You have an electronic parking brake, which I find really annoying. I'd much rather have a physical handbrake because you have to push and hold the actual brake pedal to activate and deactivate this. Just give me a regular handbrake. And here's your hill hold assist with the cup holders right here. The cup holders are fine as long as you have a smaller bottle or cup in there. If you have something larger, it will be a little bit annoying to shift. I also love the seats. They're kind of this white leather fabric. It's like a leather, and then there's like a cloth insert in the middle. They feel very comfortable, but the back seats are not very large. So let's go check out those right now. So hopping here in the back seat is a little awkward because of how Toyota cut out this door. I have a friend who's a lot larger than me, and he literally could not fit in this back seat just because of how the door is laid out. So if you've got larger occupants getting in and out of here, that might cause some issues. But once you're back here, legroom is okay, not huge by any stretch. I'm comfortable, but I'm only about 5'8", and I do have some good headroom here. You have your basic cup holder here on the door, and then two more here in the center armrest. So in terms of back seat space, the Toyota Corolla fares fine, but it's not exceptional. Ditto for the hatchback, so let's go ahead and check that out now. Around back, the Corolla looks just as hot back here as it does in the front. Although the trunk space is not fantastic. You only have 17.8 cubic feet of storage, or 23.3 if you fold down the rear seats. And the only way to fold down the seats is from the second row. You can't do it back here from the trunk. So if you look in here, the floor is just really tall. It kind of makes you think it's a hybrid or something, but it's not. So you just don't have a lot of room back here. You can see we have our camera case back here. This is about the perfect size to fit in the overhead compartment of an airplane. Then we have our backpack here, and basically that doesn't leave much room for anything else. We also have our Jump Smart that we were sent here. This is a pretty cool product I wanted to show you. It is a flashlight. You can see it here. It comes in this handy traveling case. If I go ahead and turn it on, it's pretty cool because this thing can actually jump start your car or charge up your phone. It comes with these little jumper cables, so you plug them in and it'll actually jump start a car or charge your phone or do whatever. Kind of a neat product back here. So now let's go ahead and price out our affordable little guy here, the 2019 Corolla. Pricing the Toyota Corolla for 2019 in the hatchback body style is pretty easy because you only have two trim levels to worry about. The base SE trim starts at $20,140. For that, you get 16-inch wheels, a spoiler, paddle shifters if you get the CVT transmission, an 8-inch touchscreen display, Toyota Safety Sense technology, and automatic climate control. That's single zone on the SE trim. The XE is a step up at $23,140. It's an extra $1,100 if you want the CVT. No thanks, I will be taking the manual, thank you very much. But you do get LED fog lights, larger 18-inch wheels, leather heated seats with fabric inserts, a 7-inch multi-information display in the cockpit, and dual automatic climate control. You can also add a package for $1,600 that will add a wireless charger, built-in navigation, and JBL audio. I would think about not doing that. I just think that if you have an Apple device, you can already get your navigation, and the audio system, the base one, sounds just fine to me. All cars, no matter which trim you pick, are going to have Toyota Safety Sense, which includes a pre-collision system with pedestrian detection, radar cruise control, lane departure alert with steering assist, automatic high beams, lane trace assist, and road sign assist. So overall, this Toyota Corolla is a pretty good value. The Corolla has always been a car that I would recommend to people if they just don't care about cars. Like, oh, I just need something simple and affordable that's always going to work. Buy a Corolla. But Toyota for 2019 has reinvigorated this car with a passion I have not seen in a Corolla for a very, very long time. Especially this sporty hatchback in a shade like this is actually a cool car that I would consider and recommend to my friends who love cars as a daily driver. I wish that Toyota would take the next step and make a hot version of this car, a TRD, an XRS, whatever you want to call it. I wish that they would maybe just put the engine from the Camry with 200 horsepower, or maybe even bolt a TRD supercharger to it. Give it a little bit of a tighter steering rack, maybe a tighter suspension, a little bit of an exhaust, and that's it, because it already looks hot enough to be a hot hatch. So I wish Toyota would have just gone the little extra mile, but as a commuter, this Toyota Corolla is a phenomenal vehicle. It does have some faults. There's not enough storage up front, the back seats aren't that great, and the trunk space is not that great, but as a fun, reliable, economical commuter, this is a great vehicle, which is why it receives a CarBuzz score of great buy. It falls just short of my must-buy rating. And if you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, subscribe to the CarBuzz YouTube channel and download our apps on iOS and Android to keep up with the latest and greatest in automotive news and to see more reviews just like this one. Hope you've enjoyed the video. See you next time.